What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. This last week was our biggest ever for our members, including 2 more millionaires. Let's get to the winners. NFL was our biggest cash cow last week, highlighted by some great calls across all of our content, including JT Hayes being all over the 49ers game script on Sunday. Subscribe to our YouTube page now so you don't miss calls like this.
A little bit like the San Francisco defense, 3,200. I think Todd Bowles is a terrible head coach. And I think they'll come in with a terrible game plan in this game. And I think they could get wiped. I think it means a lot of touches for Christian McCaffrey. So if you simply pivot from Henry to McCaffrey, that's a huge ownership discount.
In addition, our cores and player pools were littered with the highest scoring players on the slate. Our members were in sync with our content, and the leaderboards proved it. Peter Pan 14 kicked things off, hitting for $117K in NFL Showdown. J-Dub 115 hit for $7K. Sammy Davis Jr. hit for $10K. OG member Brittany turned $75 into $11K. J. Reed won $30K. CSP 246 shipped $40K. Craven or Vad used Mangones and my weekly construction advice to hit for $40K. And K. Phallic hit for $46K with a Russell Wilson lineup. We'll get to our biggest NFL winners in just a second, but first we need to shout out some big wins in our other sports. Our content continued to crush in the soccer streets, with NYG fan hitting for $10K. K. Phallic's hot streak continued in the World Cup, shipping for $27K. In NBA, Long Dick Dong hit for $7K, while in MMA, Sevens Vox shipped a monster $51K. At Rumpier Sports, we take pride in featuring content contributors who actually make a living playing DFS. We put our money behind our picks on every slate, unlike many of our competitors. There's nothing better than when our members benefit from our content, and this week was the best week yet, producing 2 DraftKings Millie Maker winners to follow up last week's Millie Maker success. Shout out to Deepwater, who shipped $1 million in the 44-44. And huge shout out as well to Gordon Jonathan. He shipped the $20 Millionaire Maker with a monster score of 272 DK points, blowing away the competition. Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. And while you're watching, hit that like button now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
It's the Old Guys Pod. Some people call it the Wishbone. As we start, a large bald man will be joining us in the show here. It's Holden, it's Uncle T, it is Spread Astaire, and JT. Now, JT's beautiful face is right there. What are you shaking your head for? Everything's fine, buddy. What's wrong? Do we need to stop and restart?
Yeah, because I fucking rushed to get here.
So what's the point? What are you upset about?
Fuck you.
We're not restarting now. I mean, you said mean things. That's so mean to me.
Welcome, JT.
What are you drinking too? Are you drinking kombucha?
I've had a long day. Don't fuck with me. I will tell you that right now.
Do you want to let it out and let us know why it's a bad day?
No. I've been on planes all day. I was in airports. The average IQ of the human being goes down to about 10 when they get in the fucking airport. I mean, it's worse because people have forgotten how to travel with COVID and stuff. So on the one hand, I'm really, really happy that airports and airplanes are packed, because maybe this country will actually get out of the economic funk it's in at some point. But people walk in the airport, they've got their phones out, they're texting, they're meandering through the airport. Like, people are trying, like, I literally was close to tackling like 10 people today just to be like, get the fuck out of the way. Like, you have to get in and out. And then, this phenomenon, the plane lands and you're at your destination. And usually you like to have an orderly process, but I'm getting up. I usually sit in the window. I get up. And as soon as the guy in the middle seat gets out, the people in rows behind sprint up like they're trying to get into the fucking end zone to get out of the plane. And they're like, so I've started this thing where I just glare at them as they walk by me. I glare at them, like, try and do my best UFC stare down, because it's just so stupid. You're gonna get off the plane ahead of me by 15 seconds, and actually less than that, because I get up the jetway, up the aisle pretty quickly because I'm a fast walker. I grew up in Brooklyn. If you weren't a fast walker, you got killed. Anyway.
You know what I do?
Just got to the hotel. I'm not done yet. I just got to the hotel.
Go.
And I had to. So I'm looking at NBA on the plane, and I get, and the taxi driver I had was just terrible. Traffic is bad in DC. So I just said, I'm going to the bar. I'm going to make my lineups. And I looked up. I'm like, God, 7:18. I told Uncle T I would be all right at 7:30. So then I had to sprint to the room. And I kind of expected it. I said, man, it's 7:31. Holden's going to pull this where he's going to start this thing and I'm not on. And it's going
I wanted to wait for you for the record.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
I did.
I believe you. Anyway, I've gone on too long.
Feel better now? I knew
if I asked because Spread's here. And Spread's here. That means that we have less of you and more good dialogue, more good content for the people. And it's a pleasure to see Spread. He's got great takes. I'm scared of him generally, so I just want to say that I'm happy to see him.
Yeah, I'm happy to see you, JT. That's a great background. I assume that's a undisclosed hotel room somewhere. But that looks pretty cool. I wouldn't mind having a little wallpaper like that behind me.
Yeah. This is a nice room though. It's not the historic hotel room that I was in San Antonio, which, by the way, allegedly the bar in that hotel was where Teddy Roosevelt started the Rough Riders. Holden, you don't know what that is. But for my other students of history,
I don't know why you're being so mean to me. You're just being a dickhead.
I'm upset.
Don't take it out on me. Take it out on your wife or something. I don't want to hear it.
Who should I take it out on? Who should I take
wife.
it out on? My wife isn't here. I'm on a work. I went to see my daughter.
Now take a fucking nap. It's enough already.
I can't take a nap. It's good to see Spread. Holden, how are you?
I'll just say this: when people get up behind me and try and bolt in front of me, like at a Final Destination, I'll just stand in the fucking middle. I'll put my ass out there and they can't get around it. I don't like that.
That's not it. It's just people are just like I said, it's just like you wonder, or the second option, which is, I mean, potentially true too, is that we're a much stupider populace than we really realize.
It's true. There's no question. We're idiots. We are a nation of idiots, and we're one of the smarter countries in the world, which is saying something.
Oh,
truly. And you were saying hello to Spread. Spread apparently is now getting his dick wet on a consistent basis. So congratulations, Spread.
Oh, thank you.
Where'd you meet her?
He said thank you.
Online.
Online? Was it an app or what was it?
Yeah, we're on Bumble.
Oh yeah. What stood out about her to you on Bumble, Spread?
Just
he's pulling her up right now. He's pulling up the profile.
No, just hey, she's pretty as wife. We got along real well, and probably the thing that stood out is when we were texting. She was like, "Hey, let's actually talk on the phone." And being an older person, I kind of appreciated that. And then we got to know each other a lot better than just sending random "Hey, how are you?" messages. So. By the time we met up, things went pretty well. I felt like we knew each other pretty well. So
how long have you been dating?
Good so far.
How long have you been dating?
More than a month, maybe.
Okay, and how long did it take to have sex with her?
Hold it.
Oh, I don't remember these things, Holden.
The girl I'm seeing now, it took me like on the 4th date. I never wait that long, so it works out. So you probably took what, 3 or 4?
Probably.
Come on, you just don't want to share.
Yeah, I know. Like, do we really talk about this?
Uncle T was a virgin when he got married. I'm 100% convinced of that.
There's a few things you've been completely off on this show this year, Holden, and that is definitely one of them.
Uncle T dropping his sexual prowess on us tonight. I love it.
Hey, listen, first off, we missed last week, and I missed both JT and Spread. Holden, you not so much.
I know.
But we're almost 8 minutes into the show, and you're finally getting Uncle T. But again, I don't mind taking a back seat to JT and Spread because they're my guys. But I want to say a couple of things. JT got a few things off his chest. I'd like to get a few things off. Not necessarily in a bad way. Spread, congratulations on the new lady. I'm not going to ask you about the sex part because that's none of my business. JT, you mentioned meandering through the airport earlier. I love that word. In the Discord and the coordinators chat the other day, you used the word swaddle. So I'm starting to think that you're a pretty smart fella. I mean, you're coming up with these words that are very impressive. I'm very, very, very impressed. So meandering and swaddle.
Yeah, well, like I said to you, I was educated by Jesuits. They're the best educators in the world, and that's why my vocabulary is elite. And I like, especially now at this age, saying words that people are like, wow, like my wife will do this sometime. I'll say something. She's like, you in the words, and she pulls out her phone. What does this mean? And then she's like, oh, I don't think you're using this right. And I'm like, you didn't even know what the fucking word was, so you lose. But thank you.
But very impressed with that. But no, good to be back. I missed last week. Missed the show last week. I had a few people message me. One, our main guy, Stevie Boynton, messaged me, and I got it. I usually don't like cussing on this show, but he sent me a text the next morning when he's usually at the gym and throws on the podcast, right? And he sends me a message and he says, Wishbone with a question mark, and he said, where the fuck is it? And I'm like, and I said, we didn't do it. And he goes, that's very hurtful to start the week. So shout out to our boy Stevie. He listens to every podcast.
This is why you go last, Uncle T. This is why you go last. You heard
I don't have
JT,
a damn beanie. I don't have a Kansas Jayhawk beanie hat on.
JT brings the fire, the hatred. Spread shares his stories of sexual indulgence. You, Steve Boynton. I mean, this is again like.
Listen. Don't. First of all, don't rag on Steve. We love Steve. Steve is our number one fan. I mean,
we do like Stevie.
First guy to pull this up, and there's a lot to be said for that. I like Steve too, because every Saturday morning when I wake up. By the way, I'll tell you, a little bit offended that you said you don't like the cursing on this fucking show. But I get up on Saturday morning, and Steve will go out and have a couple of beers on Friday night and scroll Twitter and find things that he doesn't like and just go nuts. And you have no idea what the topic is. Like, you have no idea what he's talking about, but it's just the funniest drunken rant. So pull up his Twitter on Saturday mornings. It's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, it's going to be at the top of my list now, JT. Nothing more I'd rather do than wake up on a Saturday morning.
Well, before you take the cat out and walk the cat.
I have not walked the cat. It's been too cold, buddy.
That apartment must stink.
Yeah.
Where does it do its business at?
In a litter box, like all other cats.
Who cleans that? Your lady?
Oh, we share it. We share it together.
Oh, you share the litter box?
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Sometimes I'm just too lazy to get to the bathroom. You should try a litter box.
Oh, you use it or the cat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Like, why wouldn't I?
You're a mess, Holden.
I know. So you're in DC now. It's a wonderful town, my old home. Great. Did you fly into Dulles or Reagan? Because if you flew into Dulles, you flew into the worst airport in America.
Why would you fly into Dulles if you're coming to Washington?
I don't, because people just do, because it's cheaper or whatever. And I will say there's fucking zombies and Jawa mobiles and all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. This is a company trip. So
good.
More expedient route. But it wasn't all that expedient because I was in San Antonio and you can't get anywhere directly from San Antonio, like unless you're going to Austin or Houston. And so I had to coincidentally connect through Atlanta and then come back up to DC. So it was a long day. It was a long day.
Atlanta's a hellish airport too. I don't think anybody likes airports, but Reagan is the best. Reagan's the best airport I've ever seen. I lived a trains ride away from it, 15 minutes. It's the best. Uncle T lives in a small town airport. Cincinnati's a small little airport, and it's great. It's clean. It's easy to get around.
I'm not sure how small it is, but I was just there Sunday night. My son Jordan was in New York City all last weekend. I was supposed to pick him up at 11. Can I go on a rant, JT?
Yeah.
Supposed to pick Jordan and his girlfriend up from the airport at 11:30 at night. So I get my ass up, or keep my ass up after the Sunday night football game, go ready to get him. The thing got canceled or delayed like 4 times. Comes in at 2:45 in the morning. JT knows Jordan and good kid and everything. He's like, Dad, really appreciate your help tonight. I could have called an Uber. I said, well, you probably should have told me that about 4 hours ago. but anyway, yeah, I know how them airports can be. I think Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati is definitely not big by any means, but I think it's probably good size. Holden, you probably never. Well, if you ever get invited to the March,
I've been
party,
through that airport a few times. It's nice. It's a nice, clean little airport.
Are you
Spread, what are you, Sacramento? Is that where you fly out of? I've never been
Yeah,
there.
and speaking of airports, Uncle T, after the show, don't log off right away because I'm going to make my flight real soon. I wasn't sure, so I was going to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
but,
we'll do it off the air because
yeah.
we don't want Holden to get jealous because he's probably not going to get the invite. But yeah, so.
All right. Well, before we get in football, I have a topic that's perfect for this podcast.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I've come to realize that nobody that we work with understands the origin of my little Twitter handle and my name. I think they just chose that. I think that I just chose it at random. Nobody that I've talked to that on the NBA rundowns this week has any idea who Fred Astaire even is, right? So I'm just so surprised. And I started thinking, and you know what? It's because these kids have such an abundance of entertainment, right? They don't watch anything. They don't care about anything that happened that hasn't happened, within the last 24 hours, right? Because they're just getting stuff fed to them constantly. So Travis and I have a bet for when the Dolphins play the Patriots. When the Dolphins play the Patriots. I have the Patriots. He's got the Dolphins. And if he loses, I'm going to make him watch an old movie because, I mean, these kids think that like something made in the 80s is like a classic that's supposed to be on Turner Classic Movies, right? What movie do you think I should make Travis watch? Originally, I thought of like the Maltese Falcon, but I was wondering if you guys had any ideas. Really like a classic film to let them know that life actually existed before 1987 or whatever year these guys were born. I mean, it's just unreal. How little knowledge of cinematic history that the people that we work with. I mean, that they're shipping $1 million prize pools over here, and they've never heard of a movie that was made before 1975.
Probably because they focused on math and not history, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But that's
I just saw it the first time, Spread. It's interesting you say that. I was suckered into what's that Jimmy Stewart Christmas movie where they get the wings?
Beautiful Life.
I just watched that
Wonderful
for the first
Life.
time.
Wonderful Life.
Wonderful. What a horrible fucking movie this is.
You didn't like it?
No, it's old, and
I could
these
see
old
Holden
movies
not
are
liking that.
old movies are horrible, Spread.
How are they
have
not
you ever
good?
just
They're
kind of watched
awesome.
them? They're so bad. The acting's bad. The audio's bad. It's black and white. There's nothing good about old movies. I don't blame them for not watching this shit.
First of all, there's no leading man that has as much game as Cary Grant.
He's
So
dead.
let's
He
go
ain't
right
got
there.
nothing anymore.
I know, but if he was still alive, he could
He doesn't
take
have a dick. He doesn't have a brain. It all melted away, Spread.
Okay, but when he was alive,
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that this guy was doing, it's way better than these guys now, right?
Oh,
I
come
mean-
on. There's no special effects. The special effects back then was like a guy taking a spoon, hitting a pan, and that's how a car wrecked. I mean, seriously, dude. And I'm not even kidding here. Like, The Graduate is
so it's
about as
better to
old as
just
it
watch.
gets.
It looks like you're watching a video game now.
All right,
like,
what's a good old movie, guys? Talk to me here. Seriously. What
I was going to make
constitutes an old
Travis
movie?
watch
50s?
the Maltese Falcon.
Does it have to be the 50s?
I don't know, just something to give them a little bit of
Maltese
culture.
Falcon. Who wants to watch the Malt? What is that?
Have you
I've
ever
heard of
seen it?
I mean, has
Has anyone besides me on here ever seen the
Humphrey Bogart? I
JT,
can honestly
you've
say
seen it,
I've
right?
never seen a Humphrey Bogart movie.
I can't say that I have ever watched the Maltese Falcon. I know
Wow.
of it. I mean, I did think when I saw your Twitter handle, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. Fred Astaire, Spread Astaire. He's into the gambling, right? I thought it was fantastic. Have I ever watched anything done by Fred Astaire? No, I haven't.
And I'll admit, like his movies aren't as good. He's just dancing around. I mean, it was just a cool name, right? Like Spread Bogart doesn't really work, or Spread Grant. I mean, that's not.
The name is very cool. Fred Astaire. I'm not. It's not for me.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one that has the taste. For
I've
the
heard
classic
of him,
movies.
Spread, for sure, but I'm not the movie guy at all. So I just pulled up a picture of him. I'll tell you what, Spread, in about another 15 or 20 years, you guys kind of resemble. I mean, a little bit of resemblance. You got the hairline, maybe going towards the middle a little bit, and
yeah,
you just need one of them top hats that he's got on in this picture I'm looking at.
yeah.
I don't
Hell
know.
of a dancer, though. Hell of a dancer, I think.
I don't
what
know,
I hear.
Fred. The old movie thing. I'm not getting it from you. I don't
Really?
understand it.
So what's like the oldest movie you'll watch?
I'll say The Graduate. I don't know what year that was. There's probably some in the 60s that I'll watch, but I mean, there's no reason to watch these old.
Like just
Hold
because
it,
the
hold it.
storyline,
Do
so
you-
you just want to see like a bunch of stuff blowing up. You know, you could just watch your kids play video games and see the same exact thing. Like, there's no
No, I mean,
plot.
there's two things I watch. I watch great movies and porn. That's literally it.
It's funny you mentioned it. I was just getting ready to ask. So with the new lady, you've been dating her for a while. Do you guys watch mature films together or not? Have you graduated to that part of your relationship
That's funny.
yet?
Hold on.
Hey,
Hold on one sec.
You put Spread on the
just put this
spot.
up
I'm going to
here.
put you on the spot.
She put this in my backpack, and I swear to God, I just put this. She got me all this stuff for my birthday way back when. She's all these little chips. So it's like, all right, you know, doggy style, watch porn, do all this other stuff. So yeah, we have not
So
done.
they're
that.
all still up there. You haven't used any of them. is what you're saying.
No, she put it in my bag. She said,
That's
Okay with the
I'm not-
lingo, though. Do you watch
even into it.
films?
I'm not even into it. Not with
No.
her. No, that's
No.
alone time. You know, we don't need to mess with that. But yeah, old movies. What's that? The Graduate was made probably what, 1965, 1967. There you go. That's the oldest film I'll watch.
Interesting.
What's
Okay, so I guess I'm the only
Uh,
one that appreciates like storylines and good acting.
you know what has a great storyline? Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
Great
I'm just-
storyline. Things I don't want to watch. 10 Commandments.
So
No
yeah,
interest.
okay.
Wasn't that like the greatest
and that's
movie of
not
all
the best,
time?
But how about North by Northwest? Have you seen that one?
I've heard of it. No, I haven't seen it.
Okay,
No.
okay. I guess I'm the only one. Maybe we'll get
Marilyn
some guys-
Monroe, horrible actress.
You would still watch one of those movies, wouldn't
I've
you?
tried it. I've tried Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Wasn't a good movie.
Which one is that? Where they dress up like girls?
I don't know.
Oh no,
I don't
that's
know.
Something Like It Hot. I
Yeah.
can't remember. What about 7-Year Itch? Now that one's funny with Marilyn Monroe.
I'm telling you, I've never seen these things before. It's just
Oh, that one's funny. So that back then, right? And this is
Ben
where-
Hur. All right, I was forced
Okay,
to watch.
That's
Ben
not good.
Hur.
That's not good. But Some Like It Hot, right? So back in New York, before they had air conditioning, right? All the men would send their families out of New York during the summer. So during the summer, it'd be all the men working, right? And so there's this guy, and he sends his wife away to Connecticut or the Hamptons or whatever, and he's just chilling. And he's got this young Marilyn Monroe moves in below him, right? And he's been, or maybe that's a 7-Year Itch. Anyways, I like these old movies. I guess I'm the only one. We can move on, Holden. I was gonna make Travis watch one of them and give a report.
I mean, you
If
should
we-
still do it. He'd be miserable.
We
Yeah,
should take
no,
a
it's-
pool. We should take a pool and see which movie people think is the absolute worst and make him watch the absolute worst.
Well,
So
I want him to
great.
actually get some sort of appreciation for him. Like, I disagree with Holden. I think these movies are great. I actually rewatched a little bit of the Maltese Falcon last night. Like, Bogart's like the 50s, like Snoop Dogg. Like, the way he talks is just so cool. Like, I just like it.
Does he talk like that, baby? Like that, like
that's
Sammy Davis
awesome.
Jr. shit?
Yeah, that's like awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Why don't you
50
talk like that then, Spread, and see how life
I'm
starts
not
working
that
out for you?
cool. Like, I'm not that cool.
Well,
I
I don't think anybody thinks he's that cool these days.
They did back then.
It's not helping him today. Here's another guy.
Yeah, Holden. I like how when
Married.
you die, all your achievements are just gone and Holden.
But what was the last movie you saw in a theater? Any of you guys? Have any of you guys been to a theater since COVID?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. for
Probably
me.
a Star Wars movie. I like going to see
I
those.
saw
ones.
Top Gun, the new Top Gun. Which
Oh
was
yeah. I was gonna go see that. That was
amazing
good,
in the
right?
theater.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm
movie in
surprised
the
you even
theater.
saw the old one, Holden. I'm surprised that wasn't too old for you.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. The opening scene to Top Gun. It's one of my
see.
favorites.
So what would-
Any interest in talking football? Is the next question.
yeah, let's get into it since we've
I
got.
was
So-
just gonna say, if we went on too much longer, JT's gonna go through a case of those Coors Light bottles before we even get to the football.
I'm still on the first one. I mean, I don't know why you're casting aspersions.
Did you get that from the downstairs bar? Or did you go and
Yeah.
just buy? You did. Yeah. Get a bucket of those. Charge it to the company.
I just got two.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get you out of here by the time you're done with the second. No question. Now, I wanted to talk Saturday slate, but the two gentlemen that were here before you showed up, GT,
Well,
wanted to
we
talk
can
Sunday
do Saturday
slate.
slate too. We said
No.
we gotta make some
Saturday.
Sunday though.
I mean, we could talk about the
That's
tweet.
more work for Holden. That's why I like that idea.
Yeah, we could talk about the tweet that you put out this afternoon, Holden. That was so informative. It had already been shared by like 75 TV stations and journalists.
I got him blocked on Twitter. What do you say, JT?
Tua sucks in the cold.
Oh. Well, no one had tweeted that out, buddy.
I had no idea.
I literally copied and pasted that from an article and gave him a shout out.
I know you did.
You know what's interesting though is like, is this a legitimate storyline that this guy is sucked in the cold weather? He went to Alabama. He's from what, Hawaii or something like that. The guy has not been good in the snow. Very small sample, but is there any concern there, guys?
I think it's a legitimate story about teams that the warm weather teams, the dome teams generally have a difficult time outside. You look at Jared Goff outside of, I think, one game in Chicago this year. The game in New England, they were terrible. A couple of other games. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a little bit injured that game, but, some of these teams, they go outdoors. I mean, you look at, Tampa Bay going into San Francisco last week, right? They get absolutely wiped. That's a, warm weather team going into a little bit cooler weather place. New Orleans leaves the dome, go to Pittsburgh, get smashed, go to San Francisco, they get shut out. So, and we know the stories about the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, normally it is a bad matchup for these warm weather or dome teams going into cold weather locations, and you have weather there. You have a potential for snow and ice and all this stuff up there. So it is an interesting, I think, important piece to cover when thinking about that game and that slate.
Any thoughts on that, Uncle T? Little cold weather guys going out, warm weather guys going out and playing in cold weather. What's weird is the Vikings. Like the Vikings fucking live in the cold weather, but they play in the dome. It's very contradictory.
What's the question? I was checking I just went over 100,000 crowns on DK. I might gift Holden a few of these.
I'm sure Tony gave you those though.
No, he didn't give me any.
He said he was giving you all his crowns.
Yeah, Tua, I don't know. I knew he was going to struggle when we went out on the West Coast, and he did. They lost both games. Now he goes into the game with the weather and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the Miami at all. I haven't been sold on them really all year. I like them for DFS purposes, obviously, when they're in a good situation. But, yeah, I'm not really a Tua guy, so I'm probably not the right guy to ask about them.
Really? So the first whatever games, just these last two games.
I mean, DFS, yeah, I'm definitely going to like him in some spots for DFS. I'm just talking about as a player. I know on the Print Factory earlier, the guys, the boys were talking about Herbert and Tua discussion. I hate to agree with them, but I can't imagine if you were taking one or the other that you would take Tua over Herbert. But I don't know. You guys may feel differently, but I think Herbert easily, if I was taking between the two and starting a franchise right now, it would be Herbert over Tua.
A lot of people jumped off the Herbert train and they're like, oh, he's been so well. Yeah, fucking fractured.
I would have said the same thing in week one, in fairness.
His ribs were blown up. Like, I don't even know how he played for 5 weeks. The kid's amazing. He's going to be special. And as far as Tua goes, how many good games have we seen out of Tua this year? A lot, right? Like at some point in time, if he has if he comes back and has a nice game in Buffalo, like, does your whole opinion on Tua change?
No. I would upgrade him because I don't think he's going to do well at all. I think it's a terrible spot for him, and I don't believe in him. Just the whole idea of this Miami team outdoors. They're a fast track team. Doesn't seem to be built for the cold weather. Now, I know they do run the ball fairly well, but I talked about this at the beginning of the year, right? And I had to eat a little crow at the beginning because the Dolphins look so good. When you add something, a lot of times you lose something. And I think losing Brian Flores has really made that defense a lot less tough. That's the type of defense you would need if you're going to try and keep up with the Buffalo Bills. So if they can get a win here, I think I would have to upgrade them because I'll be honest, I don't expect a lot from this Dolphins team this week. So I would say he does have the opportunity to change my mind this week with a good performance.
JT, what do you think, Tua? Real life.
On the one hand, you would say, wow, I've been really impressed by him. On the other hand, you would also say he's got Waddle. He's now got Tyreek Hill, who's one of the best receivers in the game. They've had a decent running back. It's a committee, but they've had decent scheme there, and he's had great coaching. So, I think Spread was talking about, losing Brian Flores. It affects the defense negatively, affects the offense very positively. Brian Flores was another one of these head coaches. He was like collecting running backs, and like he's like, oh, I'll play 6 of them every game and we'll see what happens, instead of sticking to a game plan or a script. So I think that has been beneficial. How much of that is that allowing Tua's talent to come out, or aiding Tua's talent? So I think that's the difficult thing. I wasn't high on him when he got drafted 4th. And we saw it earlier this season. He's been healthy now for a few games, but I think he's injury prone. And I think I would lean Herbert myself.
I personally don't think it's close. I like what Tua's done. And listen, Herbert has really good weapons, but imagine having Tyreek at your disposal with Waddle. Like this whole Tua's whole career is just upside down now because he's got Tyreek, and that'll be interesting to see how he plays. If there's snow, really the offense gets a big bump, but it's most of the time it's to the running backs because you've got to react to that. So I'm hoping we get a ton of snow in that game. That would be so much fun. Just a Saturday night snow game. 2 old AFC East rivals. All right, Uncle T, you want to give some quick thoughts on this Saturday slate? I know we're really going to dig into Sunday, but quick thoughts on the Saturday slate. You start with the Dolphins then. Who do you like from the Dolphins, even though you don't like them in real life?
Yeah, I mean, the total's sitting at 42. I think on the 3-game slate that we have, you got a 48.5 point, total with the Minnesota Indy game that obviously is going to be very, very, very popular, because the other game you got Cleveland, Baltimore, a 38.5 total. That game does not look appealing from a fantasy standpoint whatsoever to me anyway. And then you got the weather game, like you mentioned, Holden. So I think people may gravitate towards that first game, and rightfully so. I think one way you could do it would be to not play Kirk Cousins, and maybe, you get the game script where Minnesota gets out early, which I do think they will. And then, believe it or not, I hate to agree with Mangone on his birthday, but Mangone brought up Matt Ryan. Is dusty of a play as it is, though, he is 5.2K, and they're probably going to be behind. And Minnesota's defense isn't exactly, a juggernaut. So, I don't mind maybe the Matt Ryan and go with the receiver. I don't know. That'd be one way to go, because I don't think I'd play Josh Allen, to be honest with you. I'd just pair up Ryan with Pittman. Josh Allen, 8.3K. You mentioned it, Holden. It is true, though. In some of these games where there's snow and stuff, it definitely feels like sometimes it does shoot out and you kind of get left out. But for me, I'll probably look to try to get away from that first game. But I don't know. The middle game is definitely the one I'll try to stay away from.
I think James Cook is going to be 100% in the conversation if I see a lot of snow there. Just a little quick twitch, dude, strong. I think the running games for both those teams, that actually could make it a smaller. Who else is going to get the big bump is Josh Allen then. He's running for 100 freaking yards. You think they're going to tackle him in the snow? What do you got, JT? Just a Saturday thought or two.
Yeah, I understand where the ownership's going to be in the dome game. It's just tough to get away from the dome game when you've got an AFC North matchup between Cleveland and Baltimore with a low total, the Ravens with a backup quarterback, likely a full running back committee. I know that J.K. Robbins, got his 20 some odd DK points last week with 120 and the touchdown. It could happen again because Cleveland's been that bad against the run, but it's just a tough game to fall in love with. And then that, the Baltimore game, it's funny. James Cook was touted because he had a big game the week before last. He really didn't do much this week. And I think that's the same situation as many others in the league now where, yeah, Cook is the better guy, but Singletary's not out of the picture completely. And it's just kind of a crapshoot. So definitely an interesting spot there. I think the way to get maybe a little bit different, to Mango's point here, as bad as Minnesota's defense has been, is you look at a stack on the Indianapolis side, bringing it back with one player on Minnesota, because Indy's defense has actually been pretty good. And then maybe Nick Chubb, maybe looking at some Buffalo pieces. And then we'll see. I mean, I didn't look specifically at the pricing on Miami on the Saturday slate. I've checked out the Sunday slate, but be interesting to see what the pricing is like, because you know, you take a look at maybe one of those Miami receivers, but Buffalo's defense, I mean, did a pretty good job on Garrett Wilson this week, who's been outstanding, and they've been getting healthy. So I think it's a little bit tough for Slate, tough to get away from that one game, as opposed to the Thanksgiving slate where you had 3 dome games, and it was like clearly the Minnesota game was the most on the road.
Just let him
You
go.
muted yourself.
Just let him go.
Was not going to
Brad,
tell.
do you want to pick a game on Saturday? Talk about it. Maybe a little bet.
When we're looking at doing these builds on Saturday, right? It feels like the obvious spend up is going to be at wide receiver. Would you guys agree? Like, I mean, Justin Jefferson at 9,100, even Tyreek Hill, like, yeah, it's outdoors. Yeah, we're not expecting a lot, but he's a game breaker. I think I'd rather have Jefferson a little more, and then I'd probably stay away from Hill, but it seems like Diggs, I could see myself getting a little bit in there. Waddle's down at 7K, and he's always got the chance to get as close for Tyreek. I just don't know. So if you do that, I mean, it's tough. How do you approach the running back position? Because we don't have that much money. Is there value at running back on this Saturday slate? I mean, let's say I did want to make my spend ups here at wide receiver. Who am I targeting at running back, right?
Man, I mean, you have James Cook, has to be cheap, right?
He's 4,800.
Yeah, so you have Cook. I don't necessarily think either of the Miami guys are playable in that, against that defense in that split. I guess, and the Baltimore guys are tough, man. I mean, again, could be a situation where we saw with Dallas last week, where the Houston defense is so bad against the run and the Cleveland defense is so bad against the run that could you play Dobbins? Could you play Edwards? Take a shot. They're splitting the share there. I guess you could do that.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's not that attractive war, because assuming I spend up at wide receiver, I can't get Chubb, Taylor, or Dalvin Cook.
But you don't. So the looking at construction and what's been winning, what's been winning hasn't been going like 2 of these high-priced wide receivers. It's been like 1. You pick one, you try and correctly predict the guy that's going to have the upside game, and then you can get one of the middle range or maybe a little bit more, because the running backs are not as high priced as the wide receivers, and so you can get maybe one of those guys. Your defense, you probably want to go. It depends. I mean, I know Buffalo's defense is going to be popular, probably they're high priced, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe you play Indy's defense.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Indy's defense is 2,400. Ravens defense is 3K, and with the way Deshaun Watson's been looking, I mean,
Ravens defense is interesting. Then in Indy at 2,400 seems, man, that seems a little too cheap for them the way they've been playing.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting slate. I know you're talking about, how they've been winning, but doesn't this slate feel so much different as far as like, it's not the pure showdown. It's a 3-gamer, but really, 2 of the games have a chance to not be that attractive. Like Baltimore, Cleveland, I could see that game going under. I could see that be a pretty low scoring game, especially if we have a 3rd-string quarterback in there.
You're gonna have what? Rudolph versus Huntley.
I think that game will go under.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I'm not really looking at a lot from there. I could see maybe this might be the time that the 2 high-priced receivers actually pay off.
Okay, that's the Saturday slate. Let's move on to the Sunday slate. The Saturday, boy, I really wish.
I think it's hard. I think that Saturday slate's hard.
What, the Sunday slate?
The Saturday slate.
Oh, 3 gamers.
Like usually,
best,
I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, even that Thanksgiving, there were so many different guys I wanted to play. I want to make a lineup this way. I want to make a lineup this way. The Sunday one, I mean, this Saturday, I'm like, there's so many guys I don't want to play.
You want people to play every single player.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They're not. If you're a subscriber to RPS, you're likely not doing that. It'd be an interesting strategy. Let's go on to the Sunday slate then. Do any of these games really stand out? The Kansas City offense in Houston, that's fun. Detroit on the road. Let's start with that. Uncle T, Detroit on the road. I threw it out there. It was like Jared Goff will be the third fastest quarterback to 25,000 yards. How is that possible?
Wow.
Because
Jared,
you throw on anything before
he
2010.
Needs Dave Burkett, one of their beat writers. Goff needs 232 on Sunday to get to 25,000. He'll tie Peyton Manning and Kurt Warner as the third fastest player ever to the milestone. That's remarkable. I mean, he was a game manager with the Rams, and now all of a sudden he's good in Detroit. He does have some weapons around him.
Okay, first off, the game manager tag is a little bit overrated.
He was.
Who doesn't want their quarterback to manage the game and be a leader? So
yeah,
what do we say that we're game managers? You're not one of the 5 guys that can just make plays outside of the pocket and make plays when things break down?
Yes.
Yeah, there's only like 5 guys in the league can do that. So there's 25 game managers in the league?
Yes.
Okay.
More 20.
I just feel like
more like
just
20.
throw that tag on anybody who's not like completely explosive and dynamic.
Correct. Russell Wilson, game manager.
No.
Jared Goff, game manager.
Russell Wilson would have been the opposite of a game manager before he came to Denver, though, right?
Well, now he's a
making
freaking
stuff
game
happen.
manager.
He's not even that. He's like a target manager. I mean, it's
Tyler
terrible.
Huntley, game manager.
I mean, I don't know if Huntley fits that category either, right? I mean,
He just runs. I like the guy.
Off the cuff.
All right, Uncle T, Sunday slate. Let's get into it, dude. We're just gonna do position by position like we normally do. So you got Hurts, who just doesn't stop, and he's at Chicago, which means on the other side you got Justin Fields, 800 less on DK. Fields is 7-4, Hurts is 8-2, Mahomes is there at 8-1, Herbert 7-2 against Tennessee. Your boy Burrow 7K. There's a lot that looks sexy. You also have got Dak Prescott. No, not that. The other side. Trevor Lawrence against Dallas. Lawrence has been riding a hot streak. Break it down for us, Uncle T. Who are the 2 or 3 guys that get your eye right now for Sunday?
Yeah, quickly about Jared Goff. You kind of have asked me a question, and then we got sidetracked. I think I'm gonna stay away from. No, I'm just saying that I think I'm gonna stay away from that game. To be honest, Detroit's been playing a lot of these games in the dome and good conditions. You got mid-30s in New York this Sunday, where I respect the Jets defense enough to where I don't know that I'll have a whole lot of this game, to be honest with you. It's only a 44.5 total, which is a lot less on the total than it's been. Obviously in the dome, they've been up near 50 or above. So I think I'm going to kind of try to fade that game a little bit. But going back up to Hurts now, I mentioned earlier about Tua, and I've been kind of on the right side of him the last couple of weeks. Not that anybody's really been playing him, but I've also been on the wrong side of Hurts. I've kind of been trying to fade Hurts the last couple of weeks, just thinking there's no way he can keep doing it, and not the best matchups as well. And man, he just keeps just balling out. I got to give it up to him. I mean, Hurts has been incredible. He's $8,200. You got a game total of, what's that one sitting at? Do you guys have 48.5? So it definitely is going to be popular. I don't necessarily mind it. I feel like I'd be hopping on it at the wrong time, though, as far as me personally. Like I said, I've been off of him. I'll hop on. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't necessarily like the matchup with Mahomes at Houston, a 14-point spread. You got a 49.5 point total. Yeah, you could say he can get it done and then come out, or they just beat him 31-3 or something like that. But I like Justin Herbert would be my guy. 7.2K against Tennessee. This Tennessee team, I think I talked about it earlier. I think this Tennessee team I think they're dust. I think they're going to pack it in. The defense is awful. We've seen teams shred them through the air. Big Mike came back on Thursday night or Monday night, and had him in the captain on my core, and it crushed. You got Big Mike back. You got Keenan Allen that's had 28, and we'll get to the receivers in a minute, but 28 targets the last 2 weeks. So I really like Herbert. And then you mentioned that Dallas-Jacksonville game, Holden. I do like Dak Prescott in that side. I don't necessarily like the Lawrence side, but I do like that game a little bit. Not saying I don't like Lawrence. I'll probably have a little bit of both sides. But I do like that game environment there. And then if you're going down cheap, isn't that the UC quarterback at Ritter? Is he starting against New Orleans? 5.2K. JT may be able to talk a little bit more on that because that's the Atlanta game. But yeah, so Herbert and Prescott for me, Holden, I'll let these guys get in.
All right. What you got for us, JT? Want to talk a little Ritter?
Man. So interesting scenario here in Atlanta. I mean, it's tough to play. I mean, Mariota had some games where he was rushing and got into the end zone, so he was doing it that way. I just don't see Arthur Smith really letting Ritter, throw it 35 times, right? They have 3 running backs. They have a really, really strong offensive line. Now, the interesting thing about this matchup is the way to beat New Orleans is through the air. And only recently has Smith shown a willingness to play according to the other team's weakness, which is odd. We've seen many times, even 3rd and 16, and he's running the ball. And I think you're going to see a lot of that this week. So it makes me nervous about Ritter, even at 5-2. It's first game. So I don't know if I can get there. I think, you look at Hurts in that matchup is a pretty good matchup. Up at 8-2, looks like he might get Dallas Goedert back as well. So he'll get another weapon back this week. Herbert, very interesting spot here against Tennessee. I agree. I don't think, 232 yards for Jared Goff to get to that mark. I don't think he gets there this week against the Jets defense. They haven't been, even though he has all these weapons, they just have not been very good outdoors, like I said, outside of that one game in Chicago. So it's a little tougher week for me. I mean, I like Dak Prescott. I like the price on Dak Prescott. But Dallas has been very much a ball control offense as well. Jacksonville, not exactly the best rushing matchup, usually better attacking them through the air as well. Although they did, what am I saying? I mean, they did give up 1 million yards to Derrick Henry. So it makes me worry a little bit about Dak Prescott. And it's a little tough. It's a little tough. I mean, the one thing you look at here is if you're looking at matchups and you're looking at what teams have been yielding, you look at Detroit's run defense has been a little better. Their pass defense has been terrible. And Mike White looks like he's going to play. He's 5,400. It's, I think, a 44 total. Is that a 44 total? 40 something like that in New York? Yeah, it's going to be cold, but this passing offense, Jets passing offense has been decent, and they need to get a win here. So I think that's an interesting low-owned play.
Any other thoughts at quarterback this Sunday, JT?
No, not so far. Like I said, I do think it's a little bit right now, early in the week, middle of the week. It seems a little bit tougher to nail one down.
Okay. Spread a stare. Talk to us about quarterback on Sunday.
So for the Desmond Ritter, Tyler and I have been talking about this on our show a lot because Mariota hasn't looked good. So we're just thinking, how bad must Ritter been in practice for it to take this long for them to make the change? Because Arthur Smith obviously didn't like him. He'd only let him drop back like 15 times a game. And the times he did drop back, it didn't look good. So I would be a little worried. It almost, Big T likes to say it, if he beats me, he beats me. But I'm fine staying away from there. You guys did a great job breaking them all down, except for one man that I'm really surprised to not hear Uncle T talk about, because we talked about loving this betting spot before we went on. Joe Burrow. He's only 7K. Didn't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just give up 35 points to Brock Purdy? And maybe this Purdy kid will end up being great, right? But to me, I thought that more as a referendum against the Tampa Bay defense than I did that, hey, this kid's ready to become, 7th round Hall of Famer. Joe Burrow's only 7K. I actually liked him a little more than Herbert this week. Uncle T, that's your backyard. Why would it be targeting Burrow here?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that on Sunday. I think the reason I didn't mention them two earlier, he is in between the two that I really like, Herbert and Prescott. And the third thing is, guys, is we need to wait for sure on Burrow for the most part, because we got Hurst that's probably doubtful. I doubt he plays. And you've got Boyd that played 2 plays last week, and you got the thumb injury, and you got Higgins with a hamstring that played 1. So you're looking at 3 of their weapons. Now I get he's still got Jamar Chase and he's still got the running backs and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to wait to answer the question, Spread. I'm going to take a wait and see how this news progresses throughout the weekend before I pull the trigger on Burrow. But no, I definitely don't have any problem, especially if a couple of those weapons are back.
So let's say the weapons aren't there. especially with Higgins. I'd be surprised to see.
I think he would be lower owned, right, Spread?
I think that makes him a sneaky play. I think the ownership is low, and to me, maybe I'm just too high on Burrow. I think he's the kind of guy that, I mean, Jamar Chase is still going to take attention, so the other guys should have some opportunities to make plays. I really like Burrow there at that 7K range.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the running back position, gentleman. Uncle T, why don't you take this one here? We've got Josh Jacobs on a roll. He's got New England. Derrick Henry's on the slate. Eckler's on the slate. Anybody up top interest you, or you like the mid-tier, lower tier?
Yeah, my guy up top, I'm going to go right back to Derrick Henry. I know it's probably going to be a little bit chalky up there with the Chargers' run defense being as poor as it is. But Jacobs is going up against New England. They've done a pretty good job against the run all year. Eckler is always fine. You know, he's getting, 10, 12 carries a game. He does a lot of his damage, as you guys know, through the passing game that gets him there. And I won't ever talk you off of Eckler at all, especially with all the weapons back. It doesn't really affect him at all. He's still going to get the targets and the handful of carries. But Derrick Henry's the guy I'm going to probably go to up top. I'm going to stay away from Mixon. Again, I just want to wait and see what the news is on this Bengals team as we head to the weekend. And then you got Pollard sitting there at 7.1K, and he's just crushed. I mean, he's absolutely crushed 5 of the last six weeks or whatever it is. And again, I like Prescott in the passing game a little bit, but if you didn't and you wanted to go the other side and play a little Lawrence, and then thinking that Dallas gets up and just milks the clock and uses the 2 running back system, Pollard is still a good play at 7.1K. So got to have some interest there. Miles Sanders has been really good. Again, I don't know that these guys are a little better, or JT, I know you play sometimes, where would you play Miles Sanders in a Hurts stack with another piece, or do you typically not do that? I'll actually wait and let me finish, and then you can maybe go there, because I'm always interested in seeing how people do that. Do you play the running back, thinking he can get some dump downs and maybe something like that? But Pacheco, I've been on the wrong end of Pacheco. I've been trying to make him work. And if there's ever a week that Pacheco will work, you would think it would be this week against the poorest, Houston defense. And then the only other guy I had down below, and it's where I'm going to stay away from him actually, is McKinnon. I'm not going to try to catch lightning in a bottle with McKinnon again. So Henry up top with Pollard. I like Miles Sanders a little bit, and Pacheco. There's 4 of them for you. But I'm anxious to see what you guys decide, or JT, what you think about playing maybe Sanders with a Hurts stack.
Yeah, I mean, Sanders' thing really isn't the passing game so much. Chicago has been bad against the run. I don't know. I think you certainly could play him. It's just Sanders has been very volatile week to week. So he had a huge game last week against the Giants, and I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get the same type of production here.
Well, I typically don't, but I've seen them both get there last week with ease, right? And obviously they had to put up 40 plus points to do it, but I always question that when I do my builds, whether or not that's a good move or not. But I know it's always slate dependent and opponent dependent, but I just want to get your take on that.
I think I'd be almost more willing to pair Eckler with Herbert than I would Sanders, just because Sanders it's pure rushing, and so there's not. I guess the point I'm making is it's not really correlated. Hurts has been good almost every week. Sanders has been good in very good matchups. This is another very good matchup. So
right.
I certainly think you can go there. In terms of other running backs, I mean, I tend every now and then to like to play guys who haven't done anything in a while, who are priced down because of that. And he's in a good matchup, hasn't done anything in a while. It takes a little bit of courage, but Alvin Kamara is 6,800. You want running backs against Atlanta that are going to be able to catch the ball. And I think this is an opportunity where he can do that. So that price point kind of sticks out to me. It's again, Henry, there's really no pivot to Henry here. So I think he is going to be popular. I'm showing, early in the week, over 20% projection, but And it's tough because, the Chargers actually, they seem to have fixed some things over the bye, came in with a good game plan against Miami. So I don't know. I mean, that's something that I'll have to look at as the week goes on. James Conner is interesting against Denver simply because you're going to have Colt McCoy. Denver has been a good defense, but where they're leaky is against the rush. So, I mean, he's someone that I'm going to consider as the week goes on. I agree on Pacheco. I think you're going to see a lot of people be fooled by Andy Reid and go right back to McKinnon. And I think the matchup is a little better for Pacheco. And then after that, it's just tough. Like, I don't really want to play the Tampa Bay running back. Like, when I was looking through this, and you look through this any given week at this point in the year, you find so many of these teams that have like a bunch of guys. Like Detroit has a bunch of guys. Tampa Bay has a bunch of guys, And so you get, just a few spots where like Eckler is the only guy, right? You've got obviously Derrick Henry is the only guy. Connor has been clearly the only guy. And so, that's kind of where I'm going to try and narrow it down. And don't get me wrong, I think Pacheco's in a good spot. I think it's potentially a game or a week where the focus could swing to him, but he's, of course, risky. Any running back is risky in Andy Reid offense.
Okay. Moving right along. Does anybody have any other thoughts at running back?
Yeah, I got one running back
thought.
Pittsburgh offense didn't look too good without Pickett last week. When Carolina got the lead last week, Chuba Hubbard got a lot of the carries against Seattle. Is that crazy for that same script to play out? Carolina Panthers kind of found something here. Chuba Hubbard's only 4,900. That allows me to have some be able to spend up at some other positions. But JT talked about it. Is this a bad spot for me? Am I buying high after he had a nice week last week in the win over the Seahawks? What do you guys think?
I think they've got three guys, and I listen. I made I made Deontay Foreman my guy last week. Looking at week to week, he had the most carries, and that hurt. That hurt a lot, actually.
Yeah, it felt like Hubbard was really the preferred guy there when they were nursing on that lead. That's why I thought,
but then,
hey, did they find something here?
Then Blackshear came in and got in the end zone.
Yeah,
I just think it's maybe a hot hand situation right now. I mean, look, Wilkes very much like Todd Bowles, right? I said this on Sunday's show about Todd Bowles. Like these guys are like coordinators after being head coaches because they weren't very good head coaches. And so, right. I don't think we're going to see any consistency out of Carolina. Now, Hubbard is cheap enough that if you love every other piece of your team, sure, you could take that risk. But it's definitely more of a risk than a lot of these other guys.
All righty then. I love that Pacheco call, Uncle T. So you might want to move off of Pacheco.
We'll ride, Holden. We can ride together.
JT, Devontae Adams just cannot be stopped. Now you got Jamar Chase.
Josh McDaniels can stop him.
Yeah.
They didn't even throw to him in the second half.
He hasn't stopped his own guy very well.
He only had 3 catches in that last game. And
one game.
You don't think they needed a first down there in the whole second half? But they didn't want to throw it to the best player.
Guy's still amazing in DFS, though.
Sorry, I'm a bitter Raiders fan. I mean, it was just unbelievable how bad it was.
But here's the jabroni I want to ask you guys about. JT, Chris Moore against Kansas City, Nico and Cooks. Neither one practicing early in the week. But if both those guys are out against Kansas City, Chris Moore at 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, let's first talk about what Lovie Smith, right? We talk about people who are it's amazing they still they got head coaching jobs. He's using like a quarterback committee, but they almost pulled it off. I mean, he's almost coaching too well for a team that doesn't want to win any games. Yeah, so you made the point here, right? Collins and Cooks. Cooks, I mean, what they did to Cooks is a shame because I can't believe that there's not a team out there that would have given up a 3rd or 4th rounder for Brandon Cooks and to not trade him at the deadline when you know that your
you have no interest in winning. It's a shame what they did, but I think you could, because Collins and Cooks missed practice again today. We're recording this on Wednesday, so we have to see what happens the rest of the week. But yeah, I mean, he looked good. If he's going to be the only target, we know that Kansas City will give up. Jerry Jeudy had a massive game, right? He was clearly the number one target for Denver, and Andy Reid didn't care. I mean, so I think, yes, you can potentially play him. Devontae Adams is same thing we talked about on Monday's Showdown show. Shout out for the Print Factory every Monday if you guys are playing Showdown. And we said, hey, don't love Hopkins because Belichick's thing is he's usually very successful in taking away the opponent's first, top weapon. Is he going to take away Hopkins or is he going to take away Jacobs? Is McDaniels going to know enough to which one is the first option, to Spread's point? So I'm not as high on Devontae Adams this week. It's probably not a week for me to look at Amon-Ra in that matchup. To the point of Joe Burrow, Tampa Bay's second game on the road in San Francisco, I was all over the 49ers. I don't think they're quite that bad. I don't think Cincinnati is quite as strong as San Francisco. So, and Uncle T brings up a great point about all the weapons that might be missing. Man, Garrett Wilson, price is up a little bit, $6K, but against Detroit, we saw Justin Jefferson have a massive day last week, and I like Garrett Wilson here. I have a little bit of interest after he let me down last week. CeeDee Lamb, 7,300 against Jacksonville. That's not a terrible matchup.
JT, real quick, because you brought up a Jet, but what about Elijah Moore at 3.6?
Yeah, so there was reporting last week out of New York that Wilson has become the guy that they're moving around on the line of scrimmage, and like a true wide receiver number one, and Elijah Moore is the slot receiver for the Jets. And the slot receivers against Detroit. Now, every receiver for Minnesota last week just went nuts, right?
Yep.
Game was indoors, whatever. But yeah, I actually think Elijah Moore is an interesting. I think a jet stack here is interesting where you play Mike. I think Detroit loses this game. I think that they're building good momentum, but I just think this is not a good matchup for the offense. And I think the defense is going to struggle like they have. And you could see like a 28-10 game or something like that here on the side of the Jets. So it does make me interested in the passing game. Elijah Moore is part of that as the slot receiver. So I like that. And then, I mean, you look at the Chargers guys. I mean, Keenan Allen, 6,800. He's fine. He's getting, a ton of targets, still 14 targets, whatever. I want to see what happens. I mean, it's always tough to target New England. I want to see what happens with Jacoby Myers, because I would be somewhat interested at him in 4,700 against the Raiders. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at. And one more cheap guy that I think is interesting just because the price is down is Michael Gallup for Dallas in that matchup. 4,500 to me. Yeah, it's an interesting price point. I like it a little bit.
Uncle T, let's hear your thoughts at wide receiver, man.
Yeah, JT stole a lot of my guys, which is always a good thing to be lined up with JT's thoughts. But yeah, up top.
Sorry, baby.
No, that's good. I like riding with JT. But no, up top again, I'm kind of off Devontae as well. I agree with you that I do think Belichick will try to do what he can to, I think if it's between Jacobs and Adams, I think he'll let Jacobs go. I wouldn't say let Jacobs go. Again, New England does a pretty good job against the run. I think they're going to take Adams away. I like New England in that game. Again, Jamar Chase, if you're going to play Burrow, there's no doubt you got to pair him with Chase, in my opinion here, for sure. It doesn't matter that, say a couple of those guys don't play or say all three don't play and you still want to play Burrow. He's going to force it to Chase no matter what. They did it last week, the entire game. So if you're going to go that route, I do like that. But my favorite, you guys might make fun of me on this, and that's fine. CeeDee Lamb's my number one receiver this week. Again, I said it earlier about the quarterbacks. I like Prescott. I'm going to side a little bit with the passing game this week. And it might burn me for sure, because if they get a 10, 14, 17-point lead somehow here on Jacksonville, I realize they're going to take the air out of the ball and run with Pollard and Zeke. But I just like Prescott, and I like Lamb as the pair this week. So I do like him. Keenan Allen and Big Mike, again, I probably would side with Big Mike. You get a little bit of a discount. I think he's back healthy now, and he looked really good on Monday night. So I like him. Olave in that matchup against Atlanta, I don't mind him. You mentioned Garrett Wilson, JT. Yep. In this particular matchup, you could argue he could be 7K in this particular matchup. He's been really good. Again, last week not as good as he did them 2 weeks previously, but I still like some Garrett Wilson. I don't like this game as a game stack. Like I said, I'll probably be under as far as the game stack, but you can definitely have pieces here. And you guys mentioned Elijah Moore. 3.6K, he had 10 targets last week. I had some Elijah Moore as a filler guy last week, and he definitely, paid off that price tag. So I definitely don't mind that. But the last guy I'll mention, I'll let Spread get in here. You didn't mention him, JT. I don't know if you've been on him, but I have Zay Jones at 4.9K. If I'm looking for a run back in the Dallas game, if they get behind, I know that you got Christian Kirk up there, but if you need the salary savings, Zay Jones is still 4.9K. I got on him 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I played him quite a bit. And for the price tag and the targets that he's getting, I just don't mind it. If he's popular, I'm good with that. I mean, he's still paying it off. So I like me some Zay Jones. And again, Elijah Moore, 3.6K is definitely interesting.
Two things before Spread goes. Definitely not a game stack on that Jets game. More a passing stack of the Jets offense. Second thing, Zay Jones. Remember what we talked about? After he has a big game, what happens the next week? So that's the only thought process I have here.
Spread Astaire, the wide receiver position is yours.
Did you say Fred or Spread Astaire?
Probably
Fred?
both.
Uncle T, Jamar Chase, best spend up on the board. Would you agree?
Well, again, I like CD Lamb just because I like Prescott a little bit. But again, I told JT, if you're playing Burrow, it doesn't really matter to me. If you are set on Burrow is what I'm saying, you have to run him back with Chase, because it doesn't really matter to me. He's going to force it to him, and he's going to get 10, 12, 14, 15 targets in that game. So if you're playing Burrow, without a doubt, you play Chase, whether those guys are in or not, in my opinion.
My second favorite spend up is A.J. Brown, just targeting that Chicago defense. And that's funny because I had brought up Zay, just thinking Zay Jones was someone I was going to talk about. But JT made a good point there. Maybe a little George Pickens there at 5K going against the Carolina defense, although the Carolina defense has been playing pretty well. Sometimes I wonder if you get too, what we see at the beginning of the season, you just get married to it. Like what we see in like week 1 through 4 means more to us than what's recently happened, because Carolina's been playing pretty well. But I mean, I just wanted to talk. I really just love the Bengals this week. I think this Tampa team is just a team, they know that nothing's going on and might get blown up here at the end of the season. And even if Bowles draws up a good game plan, this team's been so wrecked with injuries. I think Cincinnati has a huge day.
The tight end position would be next. Good time to tell you or remind you that hitting the like button will help us all grow as people and grow as a company.
Good job, Holden. An hour and 6 minutes into the show, you're finally asking the people to hit the like button. Good job.
Well, you had a chance to say it first hour of the show.
Have
we really been doing this for an hour and 6?
It's outside my pay grade.
You're doing good, Holden. You didn't even nod off. Usually you can tell where an hour in is. You just
Uncle T. I was relaxed, having a good time, but now we really are up against the time limit. JT, tight end. What do you got here? Tight end, JT.
Tight end? Oh, let JT go.
That's why I said his name.
You were talking to me, you donkey.
No, I really wasn't, though. You thought I was talking to you.
I don't man, I don't have a lot here that I like. Tight end. It's gonna be one of the weeks where I'll look at ownership and projection. I mean, Kelsey at 7-8. Man, that's a hefty price. I keep saying he's the wide receiver 1. He hasn't been in a little bit. Because it's been all these other guys. He's still getting the targets, but
a Kongwu. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's fine. I I don't have a good early week lean on the tight end position just because the guys that, and it hasn't been a year where the guys who you expect to smash are going to do it every week, right? It hasn't been like Andrews has been obviously hampered by the quarterback situation and some injuries of his own. Kelsey is not hampered by anything other than the fact that there are so many weapons and they're winning games for the most part pretty easily. And I think teams are finally, after I don't know how many years, actually trying to make the Chiefs go away from Kelsey at times. So it's a tough position for me. I mean, Hunter Henry, maybe in that matchup against Vegas, he's seemingly been getting targets. He's been kind of like a wide receiver 2 for New England. Waller and Renfro are not going to be back this week. They were designated to return to practice. So you could play Moreau. New England is pretty bad against the tight end position as well. I'm not going to play Ingram again. Maybe Dalton Schultz. I mean, maybe you could play him, but I do.
Why no Ingram? He's the guy that I circled there.
Yeah, off the monster game.
I mean, I can't. Come on, I can't go back to. He's not. And so people will say this, and I've heard people say, is he going to do the same thing? Of course he's not, but he's really good. And I'm like, but look at the history and the logic here. When players do that, there's a slip off. There's a slip off.
Okay.
And, maybe there's not. He didn't get an enormous price rise because I was looking into him, but I was like, man, he's 3,800. But he gets
it's just a wasteland.
Well, that's true. That's true. It is a wasteland.
Dallas has done a pretty good job against the tight end position, though, for the most part.
That's a good point.
I mean, not that means everything, but it just feels like they do a pretty good job against the tight end position. But
yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Dallas defense. I mean, yes, Chris Moore had a big game last week, but it's an unfair comparison because, like I said, they had 2 quarterbacks. The running back got hurt. I mean, but it's spread. You're right. I guess that's my ultimate point. Tight end is an absolute wasteland. I have no idea what I'm doing at the position on Wednesday.
So, Uncle T, a Congo.
I have no idea where we're at.
Yeah, 3,100 at tight end.
I got 3 guys. I got Dalton Schultz. Again, I've been talking about it the whole show. I like this Dallas passing game. It could definitely burn me for sure if the game goes where, again, they get into the running script if they're way ahead. I definitely see that. Everett, 4.3K in the other game stack I'm going to be looking at. And then if Hurst sits, 2.7K Mitchell Wilcox. They used him more as a blocker last week than a pass catcher. Got two targets, 1 catch, 10 yards. It's not necessarily the sexiest play for sure, but if you need to go all the way down to 2.7K, maybe they put him in, maybe they 10-15 yard line in, and maybe he gets a touchdown or something. But Mitchell Wilcox for the Bengals, if Hurst sits, will be my punt tight end probably here on Wednesday night.
What do you think of their spread?
I hate tight end. I almost feel like you want to try and find a way to spend up for Kelsey.
Not Evan Ingram.
Well, I mean, they make a good point. I just sitting there at 3,800. Like, what does he really need to do for me for him to pay off that price tag? I mean, do I want Cole Kmet at 4K? I guess if we know that Fields is back, but against that Philly defense, nah. I mean, I guess you can make a good argument for Gerald Everett, who, going against Tennessee here. But I guess I'd like Schultz the second most. I definitely don't want Freiermuth. Dulcich, it feels like our little love affair with him is over. I'm probably unfairly crossing the Raiders off the list because after that heartbreak last Thursday night. But it just, I don't know. I guess that's why Ingram stood out to me there. And then, of course, I understand the Okonwu idea as well. But boy, this is not a fun week for tight end. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of fun options. It just feels like you spend up for Kelsey or your punt.
I guess maybe one more because the more we talk through this and we're looking at options, it looks like a potentially lower scoring week here, just based on the way the games are. You get a couple of dome games here, but perhaps Tyler Conklin, who's gotten 15 targets over the last couple of weeks in that matchup against Detroit, 3,100. So you talked about a punt spread, maybe him.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, this is going to be, there's guys I like this weekend, and then there's guys that I'll just tune in and play what you guys talk about on Sunday morning, JT. So I'll see what you guys come up with there, because there's no tight ends that I'm itching to get in this lineup here, because you make a good point. When you're looking at Kelsey, you have to compare him to the other wide receiver prices in that same price range, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, do I really want to play Kelsey over CeeDee Lamb? I don't think so.
Right.
I guess you can argue, hey, he's better than DeAndre Hopkins just going against that Denver defense, because we know that's not the problem there, right? But even St. Brown, it feels like, might be worth the money. I mean, Keenan Allen there at 6,800 could be a good matchup. So tight end's a punt, and that's why it's great to be part of Run Pure and rely on you guys there to fill out these lower owned positions.
I think we saw this last week, though. 1 point on the Detroit offense, because Jameson Williams looked good. DJ Shark is healthy now. You've got Swift. You've got Williams in the mix. They've got the tight ends there. They have Josh Reynolds. All of a sudden, Detroit has a ton of weapons. And the reason why we've loved, and I've loved him more than anyone almost here, is the reason why we've loved Amon-Ra St. Brown is because he got all this Cooper Kupp type volume, because he was the only guy there. Now they've got DJ Shark. Josh Reynolds was back. Jameson Williams. DeAndre Swift is healthy now. And all of a sudden, even though this is a terrible matchup, so I'm just staying away from the team as a whole, there is a part of me that wonders, could we see a different Detroit team just because of all these weapons? I do have a lot of respect for the Jets defense, though. So moving forward, I wonder if it's going to be a wise decision to play Amon-Ra at 7,800.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, they had the net matchup last week too. That I know the Vikings have a great record, but it's based on the strength of that offense. And now you go outdoors and you face the Jets team. They held the Bills to 20.
Yeah,
they held the Bills to 20, and that's a pretty good offense.
had a shot in that game too. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, if they kind of bring Detroit back to earth and kind of end the fun.
I think that's what happens.
We've got.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it was great to see you.
You sure you don't want to do some showdown slates, Holden?
Simon,
You don't want to talk defense for 10 minutes?
get us out of here.